it up, but anyways, it's my fault.
Okay, no worries. Let me just make sure that this, can you see the red right now? Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. And we are,
Thank you for doing that. This is the May 11th, 2021 Scarborough Schools Policy Committee meeting. So we have, I sent out an agenda
Mhm.
yesterday afternoon. I don't know if you guys got it or not.
did.
Basically, just for us to plan.
Yep.
And I put on BDE, BBAB, and BBABR, which the BBABs are the student representatives, and the BDE is the committee assignments. They were on the to-do list, and I didn't figure we would need much planning for those, so I thought that those would be an easy one to throw in, just to get us through.
All right.
Shut everything down when I logged out because I had so many windows open.
That's the story of my life. Like which tab connects to what?
I like limited windows.
All right.
Okay, and we did text offline without you, Diane, yesterday, discuss the timing because I messed up my personal agenda, but basically, so we agreed to go to only 5 today, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay. So I had the first half an hour as planning for upcoming meetings. We could sort of discuss what we have coming up and what we need to do and that sort of thing. That would be helpful. I'm bummed Leanne is missing it because I know that she's got a lot of good historical knowledge for that, but
yeah. Sounds good.
Okay. So we have the budget policies in the parking lot. We were going to wait for the charter review and for the budget series, so I think that's probably still premature. Is that your thought?
Yeah, I think so. Even after, they're talking about some pretty significant changes to the charter, but it still has to go to town council. And so I think probably definitely let's wait until that's a final document before we see what policies need to be changed.
Okay. We had a EEAR or EEA, and then I'm assuming EEAA and I don't know if that's written incorrectly, but because then it's EEAR. Student transportation services. We had added that on because of COVID initially. I'm assuming we can remove that, but I just wanted to check.
Yeah, I mean, in reference to our transportation policy, just keep in mind that what we provide, or until this year, what we have provided is actually above and beyond what this policy calls for, right? And so the extent that we're able to do that, which we have been in the past, we don't, have measured walking distances, and basically every child is afforded transportation in Scarborough, even though that's not dictated by the policy. Certainly, if in the future circumstances changed and we weren't able to do that, then we would lean on the policy to say, this is what is agreed upon. So anything that we can provide in addition to that, I think is great, and certainly helpful to families and students.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm gonna remove that. IKB, I think that's homework, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
It says IKB. I don't know if that's correct. What's
IKB is homework, yeah.
it is? Why can't I find it? Must be.
Oh, it's interesting that it's not on there.
Hmm.
It used to be on there.
I don't think we have. Is that a sample policy? We were gonna pull, remember, we were gonna pull up sample policies from other districts because we don't have one.
Oh, we don't have a homework policy? Okay,
Okay.
well, that's still, I mean, aspirational at this point, I think,
Yeah.
with everything that's going on.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think given the fact that we're kind of still in this, learning environment that we have, that, we might want to kind of like settle back into a groove again.
Yeah.
Before we would take on that policy. That's just,
Plus, it's like, depending on when the DEI committee finishes its work, I can see that those
Mhm.
policies will move to the front of the
Yep.
list,
Yep,
so.
I think you're spot on with that. In terms of even just the related, instruction, curriculum policies that we have, and, do we revisit those with that equity lens in mind? That is certainly something that we could consider.
Okay, so let's hold off on that. I don't know why we have two sections here, but we had BCB. I don't know what that is. A board member conflict of interest. I think that carried over from your conversation with Kate, because it's with DJH, purchasing and contracting, procurement, staff code of conduct.
Yeah, and I honestly don't know that there is. I mean, we certainly could pull up model policy and see how our current policy compares. But it doesn't necessarily seem like it's a pressing issue,
Okay,
unless, of course, either of you feel that it would be.
no, I'm gonna remove those, I think, though. That was just lingering. And then Dick was on there, and that's bullying. I feel like we should be waiting on that because I think that could come with DEI recommendations too.
Yeah, and honestly, I think our JIC policies are really in line with, and related to some of the Title IX work that we recently did as well. And
Yeah.
I think the policies that we have for JICK are definitely in line with the model policies for that.
Okay.
All right.
I wonder, I know at one point, like the cell phone policy had gotten a lot of traction and there was interest in revisiting that. I don't know, if that might be one that we might be able to, kind of just as we want to make sure that we have this rotating update of all of our policies, perhaps that's one that we might be able to, move ahead on.
Cell phone. I'm good. I mean, I'm happy to review that. One of the God, I don't want to say wonders, because that's school speak. I can't say school speak. One of the things that I wonder about that, though, Diane, is will that be too tedious for staff at this point, because it will implicate the handbook, it will implicate like looking at it at different grade levels. It has to be like a real uniform.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just trying to figure out, like, is there a obviously as priorities come up, we want to move certain policies to the, head of the pile.
Yeah.
But I wonder, just as a way to kind of organize our work moving forward, if there would be value in, and perhaps this document exists and I'm not aware of it, but looking at like what were the last dates of reviews for all of our policies, and then pulling the ones that have the most time span since they've been written and updating those so that we don't have policies that go, 10 or 12 years without being reviewed.
So Leanne had, and I haven't looked at this document in a long time, but Leanne had done a lot of that work.
Yep.
When she was chair.
Yep.
And I think she did put a spreadsheet together. Let me see if I can find it.
That sounds familiar, yeah.
And I've told her that I wanted to meet, just she and I, and sort of like go through some and make sure that that the drive itself is organized.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know there was a document that.
Yeah, it's called policy inventory.
Oh.
It's under policy master list.
Yep. Right. So if we organize those by like we have some policies that are dated back to like 2002.
Yeah.
And even if it's just to look at them and say, yes,
Yeah.
that's still current, and, be able to put that, that it was reviewed again in 2021, I think that in of itself would show that we're moving those forward.
Yeah. And that was my intent. I just don't want to get into that doc without
Right.
Leanne, because I'm afraid that I'll mess it up.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that's a good idea. And then what I think she did is I think she pulled from that list, and then at the bottom of our agenda, find the policies that when she was chair, she thought needed to be addressed. So these are the policies that I view as, if I remember correctly, the policies she felt we were behind on.
Yep.
Service animals in school. I know that there's been changes in the service animal law in general.
And that's been pretty quiet.
It was last revised 2013.
Yeah, that's about the time in which it was really coming up a lot.
It's funny because it's got strikeouts in the. You see that in the policy itself?
What's the policy lettering?
Oh, it's ACAC.
So ECAC?
AC, sorry.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Oh, yeah, that is interesting. That the revision, like they left the the strike throughs in there. Yeah.
So I'd like to see if there have been any changes, just because I think that that's kind of like could be a pressing issue if we had, if that came in front of us.
Yep.
I'm going to mark that as one that we should look into.
And I can like go on to MSMA's website right now and see if there's anything that's updated.
Oh, I didn't know they had it on their website.
Yeah, they have a policy database.
Is that only for administration, Diane, or is that, can the public see it, you know?
I think it's only for administration.
Gotcha.
Let's look.
If we were looking for something that we wanted to investigate more that wouldn't require a heavy lift on staff, Alicia, we could do public participation at board meetings.
Oh, yeah, that would be great.
Since that one would be just like a board driven one.
Yep.
Because I can't find the meeting that we talked about that, but I know we had started to look at the draft policy for that.
Public participation. Let me see. if
Yeah,
I can-
they actually don't have a sample ACAC policy.
Okay,
So that would indicate to me that there probably hasn't been, generally like when they provide model policies or sample policies, it's because there may have been some legislative changes
yep,
that people are going to go to and say, oh gosh, this just went into a statute. What should that look like in policy?
okay. So April said public participation. I think that's where the meetings.
And that is BEDH.
Okay, and BEDHR.
Right, so if I look.
All right, that's good. Leanne has bomb threats on there. Oh, that was last reviewed in 2002.
So I'm going to pull the sample policies as we talk about them, so then that way we can add them in. All right, so that's standard.
I'm just kind of going down the list to see
Can you give me the letters for that, please?
the bomb one.
Yeah.
EBCC.
EECC.
EB as in boy.
Okay.
And there's JICIB too. JICIB.
That's JICIB.
When was that last reviewed? (2012).
Yeah, there's nothing. There's not. Sorry. No. You don't need to hear my phone ring. There we go. Yeah, there's not a model policy for JICIB
Huh.
on the MSMA database.
Well, one of the things that's interesting to me is that this is somewhat dated in that it doesn't deal with the threat of school shootings, which is the sort of replace the old bomb threats, I think.
Yeah.
So I wonder if Drummond Woodsum has any.
So what's interesting. Yeah, like when I'm like, they have a table of contents for their sample policies.
Mhm.
And so when I look at J, there is JICIA, which we have, which is weapons, violence, and school safety.
Mhm.
That might be wherein, that would be nested.
Mhm.
Yeah, so let's see what that looks like.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yep.
What year was Columbine?
99,
What was it?
99.
Oh God, that was a long time ago.
I was a senior in high school.
Really?
And remember, like, in regards to that, Alicia, like, it's relative to it being a student policy, right? Because the policies that we have, like JICIA is weapons, violence, and school safety, and it's in regards to what is prohibited conduct by students.
Mhm. Then what was the other one that went along with the bomb threat? There was like a response for the bomb threat, at least there was like a responsive, and then there was the student side. EBCC maybe. Yeah. So that's interesting. So EBCC is like the school's response to a bomb threat, and then the J one is the prohibition for students. So what?
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if Drummond has done anything that includes other types of threats,
All right, so EBs.
not EB. Well, that gives us a few. We can move on to those next and then just go down that line until I can touch base with Leanne and find out if there are any that she feels need to move up immediately. And of course, you always bring it to our attention if there's one
Right.
you're aware of. Oh, I don't think did I add the public participation? I don't think I did. BEDH.
Yep.
I did, okay.
All right. So what I'll do, Alicia, is I will send you these model policies.
Thank you.
You can include them in our little folders.
So then for new business, I have this, I'm sorry I didn't link it. I have a new laptop and for some reason my Adobe doesn't allow me to just switch it over anymore. So I had to go the long way around, go from Adobe to Word to Google Docs. So
Fun
formatting
times.
may be a little bit weird. It is in their policies under review.
BBAB.
BBAB, and there's also BBABR.
Okay.
Which I think that we need to get back on Google Drive. So April, do you want to talk about that? BBAB?
Sure, let me get it. So, let's see, which one do I have open? This is BABR. BABB. I met with Gabby and Max last Friday. You know, as we had figured out, like for the last at least a couple of years, we had been electing our student reps in the fall, and then just kind of bringing them on whenever the senior student rep at the time kind of had their feet under them for the beginning of the year. And so I talked with Max about, you know, how that had gone and and whether he, and then we went through the, you know, I had him read the policy, and I just asked them candidly, you know, which for you guys works better? Do you want to have policy committee address the policy to change it to a fall election, or do you want to adjust what we've done and follow the policy and keep it a spring election? And they both said, let's do it in the spring. So they are currently on it. They are soliciting interested candidates. They're going to hold their election, and all goes well on at the June 3rd meeting, we will have a new junior student rep.
Oh, that's
Okay,
exciting.
great.
So this is so clunky. I don't know, since we're, you know, since we're in it, if you guys want to make changes to it, just to make it not so wordy. But
Well, and also we need to read it in conjunction with BBABR.
Right, that's what I'm looking at now. And again, like, it's interesting that they, you know, really start by the year that they began the policy, 2008. So that 2.0, you could probably just strike out
Yeah.
and maybe figure out. So the way, yeah. We probably don't need that there. Like, we could add in that they're elected by a vote of the entire student body.
so that's actually interesting, because they're not voted in by the student body. They're elected by the
Student
Their
council.
own class.
they're elected by the student council.
Oh. So, you know, so that's a point for discussion.
Yeah.
So we'll say, I guess we'll, number 3 of BBABR, strike out number 2, number 3 will become number 2. We'll cross out the May 2008, starting that.
Yep.
And then paragraph, and then just say, every May, I guess.
Mhm.
Right, right, April, that's consistent with what they said. Every May, they'll do the election.
Yeah.
So I wonder why it's not this entire student body and it's just the student council, if it was too cumbersome to do an election through the whole student body.
Yeah.
It may be that it was different in 2008 because technology wasn't on par with what we have now.
Yeah, any kind of historical knowledge that we would have had of why they changed it is, so it's buried somewhere, because both of our student reps were elected by the student council.
Mhm.
I wonder if it would be worthwhile to kind of just pull some policies from local districts to see, again, this is a point of information.
Mhm.
I wonder too, now that we're talking this out, I wonder if they used to hold the election of the school board rep at the same time as the election for student council. Would that timeline make sense? I don't know when they do student council elections, but maybe they ran it like that was a seat that someone ran for as part of that bigger general election to student
Right.
council. And then I don't know why they would, again, I don't know why they changed to the fall, but
Interesting. Well, do you want me to send an email and just ask it, Sue and the assistant principals if that would be too cumbersome? I wonder who is I think Max is responsible. Was it Max doing the election? Is he on both student council and school board?
I don't know if Max is on student council or not. Gabby's not.
No. I don't know why I felt like
There's really not anything in policy that dictates like who organizes it.
Yeah, so I think we're getting a little tangled because I think the school board reps, I kind of tasked them with running the election, but I see that I may have conflated Max's role on student council with his role as the school board rep, in that may be not reasonable to have the school board reps themselves run the election.
I think that he did it when Gabby was elected.
Yeah.
It may make sense to just email Sue and the assistant principals and find out like what they use for the student for the student council reps for the whole school to vote, like if that's a cumbersome process or not, because it does make me wonder, like, are there teachers, or is there a advisor for the student council who oversees that? Like who's assisting in that process, I wonder.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Do we care if it's student council or the student body?
Well, I mean, I think they're like potentially, different things that are associated by doing it either way, right?
What do you mean?
Well, like if it's the student council that votes, then you're really looking at, a limited number of students having a say in who those representatives are, because they already represent students, right? So they would be voting on other people's behalf.
Mm-hmm.
Versus if you had the whole student body, then every person gets a say.
It's kind of like the House and Senate.
Right. Well, or like, it's like it's like the popular vote. And I don't use that word popular, like
no.
at the school, like in terms of thinking about government.
Meaning every vote counts.
Right.
That's interesting. I mean, I guess my preference would be the entire school if for that reason, right? I mean, but I don't know what's involved in, and if that's working for them and it would be a problem. I don't know.
It would make sense to me if they held it at the same time as the student council election.
Mhm.
And just as an extra slot on that same ballot would be a junior representative to the Scarborough School Board.
But I think that happens in the fall, doesn't it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So
Mhm.
bump it back. I think probably after reading this policy, like the intended purpose was probably to have that all be at the same election.
Yeah.
And then either it didn't happen or they didn't have anybody run or something happened where they got off track and started doing it in the fall. And then it just became the norm to do it in the fall. But either way, they're definitely not following policy now. So if we can.
Right.
Yeah,
Make
we'll
the
fix
holiday
that.
match or,
Yeah.
right.
Hi, Sandy.
Hey, how are you?
Good, thanks. We're just going over BBAB and BBABR, which are found in Google Docs under policies under review. We're talking about student school board representatives.
Okay.
Found that we were a little bit out of line with the policy, so we're trying to get that.
Great,
fixed
thank
up.
you.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll follow up on that part. Then number 4 needs to be 3. All students who submit nomination sheets for the board must attend an information meeting held by the superintendent, members of the board, and members of the student council. Well, we know that doesn't happen.
Right.
I don't like the word submit nomination sheets for the board because to me that sounds almost like they mean that the board is receiving the nomination sheets. So I think I'm going to change that, if you don't mind, to something like for a student school board seat. Is that capitalized student school board seat?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so the specific board.
So do you know, April, what they're doing now for an informational session?
I don't. I think Max's intent was to have this position advertised and basically say, if you have questions, inquire with me and Gabby and get your nomination papers in the next 2 weeks so that they could have the election by June.
Okay, I'll talk to them and student representatives will have the same expectations for participation as any other board member. That's a little bit misleading too, I think, because that's not true, right? Like they don't attend executive session.
Right.
I think they're talking about like ethical considerations and standards of conduct are really what they mean.
Yeah.
At some place, we should probably outline that.
What our expected behavior is.
No. Well, I mean, we should probably clarify the expected behavior. Right, or reference the board,
Yeah.
expect,
It should be a reference. Yeah.
right, but then outline the duties and responsibilities of the student representative.
Well, that's what I was just looking for too, because we did not have a student representative. We're not on committees.
Yeah,
And so if you go back to BBAB rather, sorry. It does say in 2.0, student representatives will attend business meetings and workshop meetings and will be assigned to participate on a standing committee.
Oh, there it is. They will be excluded from executive sessions. Okay. Okay.
Do you think like referencing like BCA, which is the board member code of ethics, would
Yeah.
make sense there?
So what if I said the state will have the same, I don't know, I was gonna say behavioral, but I don't know if that's,
Or if even if you just name it code of ethics, because that is literally the name of the policy.
so student representatives will follow the same code of ethics as other board members.
Per policy. Blah, blah.
What was it?
BCA.
Yeah.
Be back in 2 seconds.
Okay. Okay, so that's good. That will give us some questions to ask and clear up. And then if we move to BBAB, I guess I'll think that would should just cross that word out because that makes it, that must have happened as they were forming it and before they started.
Is there any time that a student would attend an executive session? I mean,
I can't imagine.
it's either personnel driven.
Right.
Yeah.
Wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
They wouldn't be part of any negotiations,
Right.
any, right. I think the thinking behind it is to kind of initiate these students into what the overall process looks like, right?
Mhm.
And help build their leadership.
Well, and it's great too to have their perspective during debate because
Yep.
they offer that bird's eye view of what's going on, and I love that.
Yep.
Okay. Student representatives will attend business and workshop meetings and also be assigned to and participate on a standing committee. That one I want to ask April. You're back. I was thinking we should probably have timing for when they should be assigned to the standing committee. Did you guys talk about that?
No, but in terms of having, having now assigned committees, trying to think like what makes sense, like. Because their term doesn't line, them now being elected in the spring, their term doesn't line up with our term. So when
Right.
everyone else gets a new committee, how much authority does the previous chair have on the committee assignments of the students? And so if I were to assign the new student rep to a committee in June, and then whoever is chair in November, wants to change that, would they then reassign them? Like,
I suppose they could. If they're gonna start attending board meetings in June,
they should
It
be
may be a
on.
good time for them to start committee meetings and when it's slow and get up to speed and give them a little bit of time to do it.
And honestly, I don't necessarily see switching committees. I mean, if they did June to November and then they wanted to, request through the chair a reassignment for November to the following May, like that, that could be a good experience for them too. So
Yeah.
this policy should probably say that the junior representative will be assigned to a committee upon being voted in by the board on such and such day in June or whatever. Like, we don't have to be so specific, but I do think that the policy should say that the chair will assign the junior student rep in June.
Okay. Maybe I'll put that after number 3.
That makes sense.
Okay, so let me go back to student representatives will attend business and workshop meetings, also be assigned to participate on a standing committee. Oh. Should that be there? 4 and 3.
You and I were on the same doc, Alicia. Did you? That's just on your local computer.
I'm on BBAB. You're on it too?
Oh, yep. Okay, there's all the changes. It needed to refresh. Got it.
What do you guys think? Should we put the assignment in 2 after standing committee or after the election part in 3?
I think it just depends on, is the assumption that they're just going to slide into the seat of the outgoing member?
Yeah, that's not really outlined either, is it? That's the practice though.
Right.
Oh, do you mean in terms of for committee assignments?
Mm-hmm.
I think that April let them choose, didn't you?
Just like I did with the board, I had them send me 2 preferences. And then I just looked at the meeting times and what I thought was going to work for everybody. And I gave them both their number 1 preference, but yeah,
Right. So you
And
probably
guide them.
you probably don't necessarily need in policy to kind of dictate that, like that level of detail that they're going to submit it to the chair, then the chair is going to
No.
send it out.
No, I agree.
I think it's fine right there.
Yeah.
Okay,
I agree.
all right, thank you.
And then, like, so I saw that you deleted the Woods in number 1, and so we should probably also delete the Wills,
Yeah,
just as a, point of consistency.
you're welcome to make changes.
Okay. Now you're gonna get me having to think about how to do strike through.
Oh my gosh.
Go over to the little pencil.
My brain back on
Make sure you're in editing mode. Or no, suggesting mode.
Right, I will suggest. Yeah.
Wait, I just deleted a will and now I don't. I'm being I'm being ridiculous in my editing. I'm so used to writing court orders where I say shall. I don't like to
It
write
doesn't
them.
matter, like, but again, if you're gonna do those, then you kind of do them all the way through, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't want to write shall in this, so I was like having a hard time saying are.
And then we could put as a cross-reference that BCA, which is that code of ethics.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Right. Well, looks like we got through 2 of the 3 and we got some planning done, so that's good. And I'll follow up with some of those emails to answer the questions that we had and get back to you with that information. In terms of our next meeting, June 8th from 4 to 5:30, is that right?
Yes, that's what I have.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
You too.
So,
Bye.